Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people seem to think the world revolves around them and that nobody else matters. Guys, I hope you're having a great day today, and you know how we do it here. You're about to hear some super entitled stories. So sit back, relax, because we're diving in. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for future stories. Oh, and one more thing. I've got my plush link in the description for all who want it. I was in theater for all 4 years of high school. Every year, the sophomore class would put on a medieval-themed dinner theater that parents and other family members were invited to attend. They got free dinner and a show. This is very important. So my role that night was a dancer/waitress. The most I had to do for the waitressing part was fill up people's waters and serve the food. It was a preset menu, so it's not like we had to take orders or anything. In the middle of the show, after I did my dancing part, it was time to serve the food. It was chicken, mashed potatoes, and I think a side of veggies. After the families ate the food and watched some more skits, I went to collect the plates. So I was walking around pushing my cart when this Karen death grips my arm and said that her chicken was flavorless. She also said that the waitresses here suck and she was about to get everybody fired because they weren't doing their jobs properly. She also said she was waiting a very long time for someone to come around and ask her how her meal was. But nobody did. Apparently, she wanted to send it back. Now, I really thought that this was just some mom trying to be funny with me, but no, she wasn't. I was just a 15-year-old and I didn't know what to do, so I got my teacher and she said she'll handle it. I don't know what happened after though, but I heard from other students that she threw an embarrassing tantrum. This Karen really thought that she was in a restaurant and these 14 to 16-year-old kids were actual experienced servers. Now, what had me most baffled was when she said she wanted to send the food back. Like, to where? It came pre-made and already cooked from the grocery store and was assembled on plates by the teachers in the back room, so where the heck was she gonna send it back? Also, during rehearsals, we weren't told to go back and check on guests to see how their food was, because, again, this was not a real restaurant and the food was free. I wouldn't have been surprised if she asked for the free meal to be comped or something. This situation is so funny to think about because it's kind of like you're playing with a toddler and they make you food and hand you a plastic piece of cake. And instead of pretending to eat it and making yummy noises, you throw it on the ground and say you hate buttercream. This felt like a similar version of that. I also never figured out who that mom was. Plot twist. She was actually a random woman who just wandered in thinking it was a restaurant. But jokes aside, only a person so damn entitled would send back free food and complain about it. Talk about being super ungrateful. I'm actually surprised she didn't ask for a refund on this free meal, since the chicken was so terrible. So, I never thought that I'd be posting here, but this just recently happened about a week ago. I'm almost graduating high school and I have a job at the supermarket, bagging items, stocking merchandise, etc. But I'm still shaken up and decided that this place would be a great place to put my experience. So this day was a pretty rainy day. There were barely any people in the store and I was fixing products that were out of order. I was just chilling since there was barely anything to do. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see a parent and her kid come strolling into the store. And I don't pay mind to the woman because, you know, she's another customer. I'm already kind of wary of this woman because she looks kind of angry, so I try to mind my own business and do my job. So she sees me and rolls her eyes, muttering something about lazy teenagers, even though I have a job, but whatever. She walks right up to me and asks me rudely without a please or anything where the drinks are. I tell her which aisle and then she loudly huffs and says, "You're only doing half your job by telling me. Are you gonna take me there or what? This is what you get paid for." Now, I only nod and don't say anything, so I take her to where the drinks are, and of course, she doesn't say thanks or anything. She only scoffs and pushes me away. So I get back to doing my job stocking shelves when not too far away, I see the kid start climbing onto the ledge where the drinks are. The kid literally begins climbing the store shelves. I screamed, "Excuse me, we just mopped the floor, so it's pretty slippery. Plus your son can't be climbing those shelves. That's not safe at all and he can fall or get hurt." Now, she gives me this nasty glare and snaps. "Don't tell me how to raise my child. You mind your own business." Her kid is still climbing the ledge part where the alcohol is, and I'm getting more anxious just looking at the kid. So while the mom is busy, I go to him and say, "Hey, can you please get off? You can really get hurt." He then starts screaming for his mother, and she comes running like a mad bull. She asked him if he's okay and if I hurt him, and he tells her she's not letting me play. So at this point, she's fuming, and she threatens to call the manager. She starts yelling at me, screaming I need to do my job and just leave her alone. She then threatens me that she knows the manager and she will get me fired. She tells me to get out of her face and continues to shop for wine, while her kid is still climbing that ledge. And then I get this bad feeling when I see him lean back while holding the ledge and the shelf start to shake. So I run and tackle the kid, basically pushing him out of the way. And then at the right moment, the whole aisle of drinks falls to the ground. Now, there's red everywhere, since it was part of the wine aisle and I can see myself badly cut. The kid is crying, probably because I pushed him, and the mom comes running over and she starts shrieking like a banshee. She's screaming that this stupid teenager pushed my son. She tried to kill him. I tell her that I literally saved her kid's life because he could have been crushed or hurt badly by the glass. My thigh's bleeding since it got cut, and she grabs my arm, digging her nails into my arm and says, "You are not going anywhere. I'm pressing charges and calling the police. Pushing someone is assault." So at this point, the manager then comes running, obviously, and this woman calls the police. I explain everything to him. He tells me everything's on camera, and I almost cry in relief. The mom seems to go a little bit pale, but still insisting on pressing charges on me and the store, demanding that I be arrested for assaulting her kid. So we wait for police to come. The police review everything, and even an eyewitness who saw and heard everything pitches in. The manager and police said that I did the right thing, and said that I can press charges because the mom hurt me badly when she grabbed my arm. She's still fuming, and is now threatening and swearing at the police, so she's taken away and arrested. The kid is picked up by whom I presume is his dad, and I'm taken to the hospital to treat the glass shards in my leg. If I'm badly hurt from a few shards of glass, I can't imagine what would have happened if the kid was still there climbing. I don't think I could forgive myself if I let him get hurt. Also, I'm pressing charges and the manager is pressing charges because she caused $5,000 in damages by breaking a lot of expensive alcohol. My friends, imagine that, saving someone's kid from getting hurt and pushing them out of the way, only to have the parents press charges on you for assault. Like, seriously, did that woman not see that the shelf pretty much could have crushed her son? Way to go, Karen. Definitely win the Mom of the Year award. So, a little background on me. I'm a disabled veteran and I work as a school administrator. I was injured in Iraq and went on to teaching after I got out of service. Besides having breathing issues and PTSD, I have some pretty messed up knees. I've had 2 surgeries on each knee, but still feel pain with every step. I need to use a cane sometimes to help me walk, when the pain's too bad, or my knees lock up, or are just extra weak that day. I have an assortment of canes that I've received and purchased over the years. I prefer the ones made by Cold Steel, and I received the Axe Head cane a few years back as a gift from a student and their parents. I love this thing. It's as tough as they come and look pretty cool, kinda like an axe, but only if you really look at it when it's not being held. So last year, I was shopping at a local Walmart and decided to stop in McDonald's for a snack. I love their oatmeal raisin cookies. I sat at one of the tables with 3 cookies and a Diet Coke. A few tables away was a mother and 2 kids. While sitting there, I took out a novel that I always keep in my backpack and enjoyed my snack. Within a few minutes of me reading, one of the kids comes over and grabs my cane that was resting against the table and said something along the lines of, "Look at this cool stick. It looks like an axe." His brother then grabs it from him and looked over. Now, I have PTSD from my time in Iraq and a short temper, and I will admit my first reaction was to grab my weapon. I removed my hand from the holster though and just got up, and I took 2 steps to them and yanked it from his hands and said, "Hey, don't touch that. That's mine." I then sat back down and went back to eating, all the while keeping an eye on the kids. So no more than 30 seconds passes, and this big bad mom comes over asking why I took the stick out of her kid's hands. She states that they were only looking at it because it was cool. I just looked at her and said, "It's my cane, and I can do whatever I damn well please with it. I don't want your kids touching it." So she then goes to the McDonald's counter and complains to the cashier that I'm being rude to her and her kids, and that I'm swearing at them. I decided to just walk away and get what I need and to get out. I went to where I left my baskets and went to the camping aisle to get the rest of my items and was planning to go to the checkout. And that's when Walmart's loss prevention guys come visit me. They told me they had a complaint that I was walking around with an axe and threatening people. I told them I don't have an axe, it's just my cane. No more had I said those words that 2 police officers came up to me. I can remember thinking, ugh, only at Walmart. When the officers arrived, they asked me what I was doing. I told them I was just shopping and that I just told those 2 staff members that I don't have an axe. Now, I did inform the officers that I had a concealed firearm, but I had a permit. I told them I was keeping my hands in plain view and would only show them my permit if they asked me to. And that's when I noticed the mom and her 2 kids behind them. She was telling them that I threatened her family with that axe and had cussed at them to boot. I slowly lift my cane up and hand it to them so they can take a look. That's when they saw that it was just a cane. They then asked for my CCW permit and I showed it to them. Once they checked it out and saw that my cane was a cane, they then asked me what happened. When I tried to tell them about the woman's kids taking my cane and yanking it back, she starts calling me a liar. They had to make her step back and be quiet so they could talk to me. I told them that they can check the cameras if they wanted, but all I did was grab my property back and told the mom that it was my damn cane. After several minutes, I had to sit because my knees were killing me, and I asked briefly if I could use one of the folding chairs behind me. Surprisingly, the staff member said yes. Finally, the officer said that everything was fine and I could continue shopping. One even told me he liked my cane. I told him it was a gift from a student and explained why I needed it. It turns out that he served in Iraq too, but a few years after I did. They told me they would deal with the mom and her kids and they'll see to it that she won't bother me anymore. I thanked them and made my way to the checkout. I decided that I wouldn't go through all that and not buy the items in my cart. So after checking out, I saw the mom hang out in the parking lot complaining on the phone. She then starts yelling at me as I load the items into my pickup truck. Rather than just ignoring her and driving away, I opened my mouth and said loudly so everybody nearby could hear, "You know, I have no idea how anyone as loudmouthed and as dumb as you could ever find a man, let alone get him hard enough to knock you up." I then quickly hopped into my truck and drove away before I could hear any comeback she would have had. I admit I could have handled it better, but I just don't like people touching my stuff, and I don't like people lying about me. I still use that cane, by the way. It's just too damn good not to use. You know what? OP actually handled that very well. I don't know how the heck he didn't lose it on the woman when she lied to the employees and the police about him threatening people. I definitely would have lost my cool at that point. The axe cane does sound pretty badass though. This occurred in a small town in Canada. I've heard from others that this is something that happens pretty often. So I was visiting my friend at his dad's house, in an area where the land is so steep that all driveways have to zigzag up, from the main road to the houses. A straight driveway is not an option, because it would be steeper than the building code allows. So a few doors down the road lives a nice old couple who until recently had a vacant lot next to them. But the lot sold and the new owner had started construction on a new house. Unfortunately, the lot was so steep that the owner built his driveway partly on the old couple's land. Now, this probably wouldn't have been a big deal if the new owner had approached the old couple first and asked nicely. But did he? Would I be telling this story if he did? In fact, the old couple had no idea what was happening until they came home one day to see a huge scar in the hillside, snaking up from the road in front of their house, across the corner from their property and winding upwards to where an excavator was working, preparing the land for the new neighbor's house. So they were upset, but being nice, reasonable people, they figured it was an honest mistake. So they went over to talk to the machine operator. He didn't know anything useful, but he was happy to give them the phone number of the new property owner. The old guy gave him a call and he politely explained the situation, but his new neighbor, whom he'd never even met, was having none of it. He flat out denied that the driveway crossed the property line, and he was rude enough that the old guy was upset. At this point, the old couple weren't even sure what to do. They double-checked the property lines to make sure they were right, and of course they were. But after further conversations with the new owner, it was clear that he was an unreasonable guy, who wasn't gonna come to the table negotiating willingly. The couple did not want to take legal action because that would have been expensive, and frankly, the damage to the yard was done. At the same time, they couldn't just let someone walk all over them like that, especially if they were going to be living next door for the foreseeable future. So the situation stewed for a while as the construction continued on the new house, until one day, my friend's dad saw the old couple in the neighborhood, and they started to chat. Of course, they told him the story about the new neighbor. Now, my friend's dad really likes the old couple, who don't even have a mean bone in their body. So he was pissed about the situation, and when he went home, he could not stop thinking about it. So that evening, after a few beers, he had a brilliant idea. He calls up the old couple, explains his plan, and asks for their permission to carry it out. They chuckled and gave him the go-ahead, so he hopped into a rusty full-size pickup truck that he kept as a second-hand vehicle, and drove it over to the old couple's place, where he then parked it across the encroaching driveway, making sure it was entirely on their property. The next morning, the work crew arrives bright and early, only to find out that they couldn't drive to the house they were building because some idiot had parked a crappy old F-150 across the driveway. They saw the note in the window with my friend's dad's phone number on it, so they called him and asked. He explained that he had permission from the owners to park there and that no, he would not move his truck so they could get to work. Furthermore, if anybody attempted to tow the truck, they would be charged with trespassing and theft. There was no way the construction guys were going to haul their tools up the hill by hand, and they did not want to get into the middle of a legal battle. So they just called the new owner, let him know that they'd be taking the day off and they'd continue to take days off until the dispute was resolved. The new owner called the old couple in a rage, but the old couple told them the same thing my friend's dad told the construction workers. Basically, the vehicle was parked on their own property, so if he had a problem with that, he could go screw himself. So, to make a long story short, the new neighbor rants a while, but eventually he wanted his house to be built, so the nice old couple ended up with a significant sum of money in exchange for an easement, allowing the driveway to pass across the corner of their property. And my friend's dad got several thank you cases of beer, and the satisfaction that comes from putting an entitled idiot in his place. Well, there you have it, my friends. We survived another one. How the heck did this new neighbor think it was okay to just ignore property lines? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /entitled people. Guys, we made it. We survived another one. Thank you so much, as always, for popping by and hanging out and listening to these wacky stories. If you missed the last episode, a mom abandons her daughter for 16 years. 16 years, and then comes back to demand an organ transplant from her to save her new son. What in the world? Ain't that something? If you haven't heard it, go check it out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.